Intro today and diving straight into something huge. Welcome to The Explainer. Thanks to some brand new Right to Information or RTI data that just came out, we are getting a completely unvarnished look into India's banking fraud epidemic. And I gotta tell you, the numbers we're about to break down, they are a massive wake-up call for literally anyone with a bank account. You know, we all like to think our money is perfectly safe once we deposit it, right? Well, this new investigation paints a very different and honestly highly urgent picture.
Okay, let's dive into this. 6,313.4 crore rupees. That is the jaw-dropping amount of money siphoned off from State Bank of India customers in just 3 years. Take a second to really wrap your head around that figure. We aren't looking at a decade of data here, folks. This is a highly concentrated financial bleed happening in a super compressed time frame. We're talking about hard-earned savings, retirement funds, business capital, just totally wiped out. It's an astronomical amount of cash moving straight from legitimate accounts right into the pockets of organized criminals. So the immediate burning question we've got to ask ourselves is, where exactly did all that money go? How does over 6,000 crore rupees just vanish into thin air? To figure this out, we're using this explainer as a visual investigation into modern digital banking vulnerabilities. We really need to look past those massive headline numbers and break down the exact anatomy of these crimes. Like, how are they actually pulling this off on such a huge scale?
Well, let's lay down the factual groundwork first. The sheer volume of these hits is just wild. We're looking at over 30,700 individual fraud cases hitting SBI customers between April 2023 and March 2026. And keep in mind, the bank didn't just voluntarily publish this in some glossy annual report. No, this data was meticulously extracted through an RTI response given to a Nagpur-based activist. We are looking at tens of thousands of individual breaches, ruined savings, and compromised accounts, all stacked up over a 36-month window. If you break that down, you're looking at dozens of financially devastating attacks happening every single day across the country.
Which brings us to a shocking twist in how these criminals operate today. Part 1. The data paradox. Fewer frauds, bigger hits.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive contradiction we're seeing in the data. Back in the 2023 to 2024 period, total cases were sitting at 14,717. But fast forward to the 2025 to 2026 period, and that number plummeted to just 2,247. On the surface, you're probably thinking, hey, great, the bank is stopping the frauds. But wait, the financial impact per fraud has absolutely skyrocketed. In that last fiscal year alone, with only a fraction of the incidents, a staggering 1.745.23 crore rupees was lost. What does this mean for us? It means these criminals are basically skipping the petty crimes. Instead, they're successfully hunting much, much bigger financial targets. They take their time, their attacks are way more sophisticated, and when they finally strike, they drain the whole shebang.
So, how are they getting in? To answer that, we have to look at the very tools we use every single day. Section 2. The gateway. Digital and UPI.
UPI is, without a doubt, the biggest gateway for these cons right now, accounting for 12,868 cases all on its own. Right behind it is internet banking, bringing in another 8,657 cases. Together, just these two digital channels account for over 21,500 of the total incidents in that 3-year span. I mean, think about it. How many times a week do you quickly scan a QR code at the store or pay a utility bill from your phone? The seamless convenience of our tap and pay ecosystem is unfortunately being perfectly mirrored by the convenience of tap and steal exploitation. The exact technology designed to eliminate friction for us has also eliminated the friction for thieves trying to empty our bank accounts. And geographically, this epidemic isn't spreading evenly at all. The data specifically maps out West Bengal as India's highest fraud hotspot right now. Over this period, the state recorded 3,426 cases, bleeding out 143.67 crore rupees. Now, the bank didn't give us comparable numbers for every single state, but this specific data point highlights that certain regions are facing heavily concentrated cybercrime syndicates. These aren't just random, opportunistic thefts. We're talking about highly organized operations hitting exact digital gateways in specific areas with terrifying efficiency. But as we look at all these external digital threats, the faceless hackers and remote scammers, we have to shift to a deeply uncomfortable twist in the numbers. Because sometimes the threat isn't logging in from a remote server miles away. Section 3, the call is coming from inside the house. Which really begs the terrifying question. If it's not just external cybercriminals exploiting the digital banking system, who else is involved here?
Where else is the system compromised?
303. Yep, you heard that right. That is the number of fraud cases over this 3-year period that actually involved the bank's own employees. We are talking about internal, systemic breaches where the very people entrusted to safeguard customer wealth were actually complicit in siphoning it off. Talk about a profound breach of trust. When you walk into a branch or call up customer service, you naturally assume the person on the other end is working to protect you. But this data proves that internal vulnerabilities are a very real and incredibly costly part of this epidemic.
And the pattern with these insider threats? It completely mirrors the larger trend we just analyzed. The actual number of employee-linked cases is dropping, down from 114 to 89 last year. But the financial devastation per incident? It's ballooning. The amount stolen in those fewer cases shot up to over 103 crore rupees last year alone, bringing the total insider fraud damage to 311.8 crore rupees. So there might be fewer bad actors inside the bank, but the ones who are there, they are doing exponentially more damage. They know the systems inside out, they know the limits, and they know exactly how to maximize their theft before getting caught. Let's move to part 4, the unknowns and the takeaway, and see how this builds. Because as alarming as the data is, what the data doesn't tell us is equally frightening. Just read this quote directly from the bank's admission. SBI does not maintain specific data on victims of digital arrest scams or the amount lost. If you aren't familiar with this yet, digital arrest scams are where fraudsters actually pose as law enforcement on video calls, completely intimidating their victims to extort massive sums of money. It is one of the fastest-growing, most psychologically devastating modern scams making national headlines today. People are literally losing their life savings in a matter of hours, purely out of terror. And yet the banking system completely lacks targeted data on exactly how much is bleeding out through this specific, highly sophisticated method. You just can't effectively fight a fire if you aren't tracking where the flames are spreading. This lack of specific categorization is a colossal blind spot in protecting customers. So the crucial point is, the rapid expansion of digital banking has totally changed the landscape for financial crime, and our defenses have to catch up to that reality. We need a multi-layered approach here. It demands hyper-vigilant customer awareness. Basically, you and I have to be the first line of defense before hitting send or answering a weird video call. It demands that banks deploy vastly stronger cyber safeguards around those UPI and internet banking gateways that are currently bleeding funds. And, as we saw with the insider threats, it absolutely requires much tighter internal monitoring systems to catch bad actors before they can drain an account. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to ponder. As our appetite for digital convenience grows by the day, are we, and the institutions we deeply trust, truly prepared for the rising, concentrated cost of financial crime? It's a question every single account holder needs to ask themselves the next time they open up their banking app. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this visual investigation helpful, make sure you are a subscriber to the channel, the Paisa Files.